Hello, and welcome to the session on SINGLETON Design Pattern. This video is part of a 20 hours Udemy course where we cover hundreds of real-world design pattern scenarios. The SINGLETON Design Pattern is a design pattern that ensures a class has only one instance and provides a global point of access to it. It is often used for objects that needs to be shared across the entire application, such as login, database connection, and configuration settings. The basic implementation of the SINGLETON pattern involves creating a private constructor, a static instance variable, and a static method that returns the instance. The instance is created the first time the method is called, and all subsequent calls returns the same instance. This ensures that only one instance of the class exists, while still providing a convenient way to access it. Hello and welcome back. Let's take a real-world code example of a database connection application using SINGLETON Design Pattern. And in this example, we're going to start by first creating a non-singleton database connection, and we will need two dependencies to make this work, and that will be a database, a MySQL database installed, and also a Python. We'll do pip install MySQL connect on Python, which is a module that helps to connect to the database. So, and having done that, I'm going to import the MySQL connector, and then I will create a class, which is the class for creating the database, and I will initialize this class, and I'm going to first print out, do a printout that says initializing a database connection, and then I will then connect to the database and store that connection in a connection variable. So I have self.connection, and it uses MySQL connect to connect to the database. I have a database called HRM, it's the username and password, and it's stored on my local host. And haven't done that, I'll just print establish. So basically, it's connect to the database, it tries to connect to the database, and when it does that, it's then print establish. Yeah, I'm just going to do a delay of the print. Let me import the time module and then sleep for just like 2 seconds so that it will simulate time delay during connection. So let's take a look at this code right here. If I run this code, it's going to attempt to connect to the database. I'm also going to run define a $string method that returns the connection. And then we create two connections to the database. On initialization, it creates two connections. And I'm also going to print out to check if the two connections are the same connections. And also I'm going to do one more, two more printout to print out the connections. That is to see the memory address of the connections. And also I'm going to close the connection eventually. Let's run code. So I'm going to open it up a little bit more. And as you can see, the connections connected to two different instances of database. But if the scenario you want to create is to have just one connection instance to your database, then you will need a singleton. Singleton will help you to reduce memory waste that result from creating different connection instances on the database. With a singleton implementation, a 100,000 database connection can use one connection instance instead of the 100,000 connection. That's a lot of memory saving. Now let's turn this code to a singleton database connection. And the first thing to do is to create a class instance variable which stores the only connection that will be needed. And then I'm going to create a get connection method, which in this case will be a class method. The get connection method is what we will use to connect to the database. And the first thing I'll do with get connection is to check if the instance this instance that we want to use as the only connection to the database. If it is none, that is, if there is no connection to it, then it should create the connection. This calls the dunder init method and it creates the connection for the first time. And having created the connection, we then store that instance that is created back to the underscore instance in the init method. That is, when we call the get connection, it checks if there is an instance initialized here. If none, it calls the database connection class, which calls the dunder init method, and the dunder init method then populates the underscore instance variable. So the next time we call get instance, the first time is going to help to create the underscore instance, but the next time we call it underscore instance is no longer none. So it's going to jump this code and then just return the content of the underscore instance. So right in our code, this initialization, this process is okay to create a singleton if we keep calling get underscore instance. But a hacker may want to just call directly the database connection method by themselves. And to stop that, we're going to have to then to have a condition that checks if, before it initialize, it checks if there is a connection existing. So if there is a connection existing, then it should raise an error that a connection already exists. And if no connection exists, that's when it will implement this part of the code. So we won't be calling database connection this way again. We're going to be using the get connection method to call it. If you call it this way, it's going to instantiate the first one, and then the second one is going to throw an error. Let's just try it first. If you call it this way, it's going to start and instantiate the first one, and you can see, but the second one, it throws an error that connection already exists in a singleton. So to be able to use different connections, we're going to be using the get connection class method to get the connection. So I'll say get connection. So it's going to create just one connection, but it's going to assign that connection to connection 2. Maybe somebody somewhere wants to use it. So right now, let's run the code again. What you see here is that it only connects to one instance of the database. It's not doing 2 connections anymore. It connects to only one instance of the database, and it assigned that one instance to the second connection. So everyone is using connection 1. And there won't be need to close connection 2, because the moment you close connection 1, which is the only existing connection, the system will close all the connections. If you have 100 connections, just closing connection 1 will close everyone, because everyone is using connection 1. So to create a database singleton, all we need to do is to create the instance that holds it, that holds the first object created. We use the get connection method to create the object. When we get a connection, it uses that one connection to connect to every other connection that we want to create. This video is part of a 20 hours Udemy course where we cover hundreds of real-world design pattern scenarios. The course is called Design Pattern in Python with real-world code examples. We showed via practical coding how design pattern is implemented in real-world scenarios like event manager, cache, database connection codes, document management code, creating optimized configuration settings, login frameworks, GUI framework codes, plugin systems, game development codes, payment gateway, document generators, computer graphics generation codes, financial model code pattern, resource pooling, object pooling in ORMs, website creation, database query codes, language translator, web application framework creation, banking system codes, organizational chart creation, file system, interpreter, menu system, text formatting code, authentication code, authorization code, API for OS, document management system, create proxies, event handling, middleware in web development, workflow system, undo redo functionality in apps, job scheduler scenarios, parsers, chart applications, drawing applications, notification system, distributed system, booking system, workflow management system, sorting algorithm, file compression utility, and many more. If you are really serious about your career in programming, you have to get this video. And you don't have to be a Python programmer to use it. Use the link in the description to get the best price for this course on the Udemy platform.